Studios in the historic Boston store. Your news talk leader.
WJET Erie.
And welcome to program number 2. This is Working Hands Radio. I'm Phil Kerner. Good evening, Erie, Pennsylvania. And good evening to everybody out there around the United States and around the world that's catching this broadcast on Facebook Live. Just to recap a little bit from last week, what's this program about? Well, this program is dedicated to the tradespeople, the craftsmen, people that love to work with their hands. And, you know, right here in Erie, Pennsylvania, this used to be a great manufacturing town. We're still trying to save it. That's why I chose that opening music, One Headlight. I feel like we're kind of on one headlight. We're still driving it home, though. So what I said last week still holds true this week. When you're listening to this program, when you call into this program, and the phone lines are open here, and the phone number here in Erie is 451-1400, and of course just add the area code to that if you're calling in from anywhere around the world, 814-451-1400. But the whole thing that the emphasis for this program is to know when you call in, the guy that's taking your phone call knows what you do for a living and understands what it's like to work maybe as a machinist, a tool maker, a designer, anybody, any of the trades. You're welcome here. This is a good home for you tonight. And again, I'd just like to welcome you to Erie, Pennsylvania, to the historic Boston Store building. Our team is all here from last week. We survived our first program. So Nick is here, Kyle is here, and I was thinking about that on the way down here. It's like we have a three-piece band, you know. The question would be, I have to be the lead singer, obviously, and the question would be, which one of you guys gets to be the drummer? See, get Kyle take the drummer. Good. I was going to say, somebody has to say something. This is talk radio, not mute radio. So off we go here. I got a great email, and I want to share this with you. And this is from Dave in Minnesota. And, you know, when we put this broadcast on Facebook Live last week, we just let it sit there then, right? So it's up there, been up there all week. And it's had about 4,200 views so far, which is amazing, very gratifying and humbling to have that kind of reaction the first week, and I hope it just grows from there. But again, this is from Dave in Minnesota. He said, "Hey, Phil, I listened to your radio show the other day and how refreshing it was. Bringing back manufacturing and creating a resurgence in interest is going to require a change in our culture, starting with parents. High schools and colleges and universities are next. When I graduated high school in 1985, I sat down with the student counselor to discuss my career plans. When I told her I was going to go to school for welding, I'll never forget her response. In a condescending tone, she said, 'And then what?' I did that and got a job as a certified welder building air compressor tanks for 5 years, and then I went back to school for tool and die making, and I have no regrets." And then he went on to say his first tool shop job was for a Norwegian fellow, and it was a great place. He remembers it well. He went to trade school in the 60s. One day a college engineering class came through with their professor, and the professor had the audacity to tell one of his students that it was good they had places like trade schools for people that can't learn. Well, then again, you know, that really hits home to me because I'm a big proponent of trade schools. Finally, he finishes up with our local high school in 1985 and one of the best metal shop classes in south central Minnesota. Since then, I've watched the program be destroyed by teachers and administrators that have no idea of what the trades are about. I've included some pictures of a busted small engine block, and I would show this to the camera right now, but I'm too far away, but it's an engine block that somebody had a problem with. Well, let's see here. The teacher put it on display with a hole in it. The next year, another student tried to fix it. And he says, "Good for this student for trying, but where was the guidance from the teacher to make it look like something?" And when you see this picture, it's just a big engine block full of weld. And the funniest part about it is the reason this guy, Dave, got the picture of it, it's in their display case. So he said, it's like he said, they put it on display. It's an insult to anyone who works for a living. So when I think about what's happening in our country, I get so upset. It's not what I see or hear in the news, but the industry. Young engineers have no clue. The universities keep cranking out substandard products. There should be a minimum of experience before one goes to college. Higher education should be just that, not a blanket solution for every kid coming out of high school. Well, amen. And I really appreciate that. He made a lot of good points there. Throughout my career, I was lucky enough to go here in Erie to the Erie County Technical School, and I got a great education in tool and die design. And finished that, went to college for a year, and, I kind of thought I was smarter than all my professors. So decided I wanted to make some money, so I began a tool and die apprenticeship, and the rest, we go from there as the tool and die guy, I guess. So again, the phone number here is 451-1400 if you're calling from around the country, 814-451-1400. If you've got some thoughts on manufacturing, if you've got some thoughts on the trade, we'd love to hear from you. Again, Working Hands Radio, a lot of guys know me as Phil Kerner, but online, a lot of people know me as the tool and die guy. And the reason I'm the tool and die guy is many years ago, I started just recording tutorials. And the main reason I started doing that for a while there, I really thought I had picked the wrong trade and trained for the wrong trade. You take a 4-year apprenticeship and then you work yourself up into a top-rate tool and die maker, and you do really well for 20, 25 years, and all of a sudden that's disappearing, right? So what do you do with that knowledge? And I thought to myself, and YouTube was just really getting big in about 2008, 9, 10, and I believe it was in January of 2011 I started putting up tutorials, and eventually I would put up 350 or so tutorials on YouTube, and I have them all at a site called thetoolanddieguy.com, and what I do over there is that YouTube hosts all my training videos, all 300 of them, and that's a membership site. I put some free stuff up there once in a while, but as I said in our first program, it's always good for somebody to have a little bit invested in their education. So speaking of education tonight, because of some of the things I'm doing now in the community with some apprenticeship supervision at work and everything, I've had the opportunity now to travel to some schools, to go to some conferences, to see what people are up to. Well, I got an invitation a few months ago, and it was to this thing called MILL, M-I-L-L. And I really didn't get what it was all about. And finally, once I asked, what am I going to this for? Well, it was that stands for the McDowell Innovation Learning Lab. The McDowell High School is here in Erie, PA, technically in Mill Creek. For all you people out in Mill Creek, I know you guys that there's some territorial stuff there, but basically in Erie, Pennsylvania. Well, McDowell High School is actually my alma mater. That's where I went in conjunction with the Erie County Technical School. So I'm not expecting a lot here. I'm not even sure what I'm going to see at this place. So I go into McDowell High School, and I haven't been in there since 1978 when I graduated. And they walked me into this area down in the bottom of the school in the lower level, and they have this amazing lab. And during that time, I listened to the presentation. I saw the enthusiasm, and then I took a walk over down the hall. And they have a metal shop. And what I was so impressed with, the metal shop was spotless, just like it should be, right? Everything was in its place. And what I really also enjoyed was I was watching a teacher, and as he was teaching, he was on a milling machine. The students were all gathered around him, and nobody was yawning. Everybody was paying attention. Nobody was looking at their cell phones. It was pretty impressive. And then I walked down the hall to the wood shop, spotless again. So what they've done, and they're going to explain this in a minute, they've got some kids finally getting interested in making stuff again. And as I said last week, making stuff is cool. And people who don't even make stuff, they admire people who can make stuff. And back to my slogan or logo or my tagline I like to talk about is, people who work with their hands. Some people were just born to work with their hands. And tonight it's 14 degrees in Erie, Pennsylvania. And if your furnace quits working tonight, you're not calling the local college up, are you? No, you're calling up the plumber, the guy that's going to come over. His pants are probably too short, and he's going to bend over and check your furnace, and he's going to fix it, and he's going to send you a big bill. Chances are that guy doesn't have a college education. And we're not anti-education or anti-college. Don't get the wrong idea here. But we need to always respect the people who keep America and keep the world running by building things. And that comes with education. That comes with experience. As much as things have been automated over the years, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, automation and robotics in manufacturing, as much as things it's been automated, there is still always room room for talented craftsmen. Maybe not as many as there used to be. So before we get to them, just for fun, I believe we have somebody on the line. Go ahead, caller. You're on Working Hands Radio. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name's Doug, and I'm calling from the Erie County area. I live in Crawford County. I'm kind of in transition right now.
Hi, Doug.
And great to hear you. I was really excited when I heard this show comes on. I'm actually pulled over now because I'm going through a transitional zone when I leave you. But you're kind of preaching to the choir. I mean, my history is I graduated from a technical school. My children graduated from a technical school. I sat on the board at a technical school, and I currently teach at a technical school.
Mm-hmm.
And the mantra is still what it is, and I don't know what we're going to have to do to change that and convert that.
Well, that's why and I want to tell you, Doug, that's why we're here. This is only week number 2, and the main reason I wanted to put this program together was to start the conversation, because I don't think any one of us has the answer by ourselves, but I've always said, the craftsmen that I've worked with in my entire life are some of the cleverest and most innovative people I've ever worked with, and they really never had a platform to maybe start talking about where we can go next. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does, and if everything works anywhere near close, I'll be calling all the time. But on this topic, I'd like to bring up something that I ran into when I went to a seminar, and they brought some people up from Louisiana. And one of the things that I took away from this seminar, which really was unrelated to education per se, but that there were educators there. And they came out, and this gentleman worked for the LSU Community College, and he said that one of the ways that they had kind of adjusted that philosophy down there was they decided to refer to everything after high school as college.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of a technical school or a trade school, it was a college atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, how much did that work? And he said it did seem to help. He says we still have those issues. But one of the things that I still think is ironic is the people, I train welders, and I put welders out. If you give me somebody from this area that, and I can tell an employer that, hey, this kid's got a little bit of history, maybe he's a farm kid. If I say something like that, I can't, their fingers burn up on the other side of the phone. How many you got? How soon can I get them?
Well, that's it. And you know what? When I had my shop back in the 90s, one of the secrets I always had is I always tried to hire kids from the county. They just had a little bit more going on as far as common sense. I know that sounds bad, but you grow up on a farm, you got to fix things once in a while. You got to help Dad. You know what I mean? And that just works well in the trades that are mechanical. If you can start turning a wrench a little bit when you're 12 or 13, boy, by the time you're 18, you can actually be pretty good at something.
And it's going completely the other way. I've talked to some well-educated people that are like, boy, what we got to pay for support services to get a person to turn that wrench.
Exactly.
Right now, every Ford dealership in the Boston area is paying a $6,000 sign-on bonus to an ASE certified mechanic.
And that's only going to get worse. I believe that's going to get worse. Wait till you see what you're going to pay to get things fixed as time runs, as we start running out of even more people that don't want to, get their hands dirty, I guess. And again, I'm not anti-education. I mean, we need doctors, we need lawyers, we need, biochemists, we need all those guys, but we still need the people that put the country together every day. Doug, I got to let you go here to get my guests on, but please call back again.
I absolutely will.
And
congratulations.
Thank
Keep
you.
this running.
And this program is also being broadcast live on Facebook. So just go to the Tool and Die Guy on Facebook, and you can not only see the program live when you get home, the recording will be up if you want to catch it. If you end up losing it on your radio, okay?
Oh yeah, I'll lose you here in about 2 minutes. But thank you so much for your time, and just keep this going.
I will. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, it's always nice to start off with a good call, and that was a good call. So, without further ado, we're going to get our guests here in our clubhouse studio here now. This is like you don't have to watch now. You can go take a little break right now, go get a snack, because nobody really wants to see how the sausage is made. They just want to taste the sausage, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to take my headset off. We're going to run a few commercials here for a second. I'm going to get our guests settled in, and this is going to be a good interview for you guys. This will make your heart warm to hear some kids that are interested in building stuff. So we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Phil Kerner for Working Hands Radio. And for all you entrepreneurs out there or people who've ever started their own business, you know you can have the best idea in the world, but unless you get the support from somebody in the community to step up and say, hey, you know what, that's a great idea, you might never get off the ground. Well, that was certainly the case with Working Hands Radio. And I'm blessed and very thankful tonight to recognize a few people in the local community who saw the vision for this program, and that's the only reason you're listening tonight. So I'd just like to take a moment to first of all thank the Rakowski family at Industrial Sales and Manufacturing right here in Erie, a world-class supplier of parts to some of the most demanding customers on the world. ISM's slogan is built in Erie and found around the world. And as we all know, manufacturing has had a real rough time for about the last 10 years or so. And it's a real testimonial to industrial sales that just in 2017, they celebrated 50 years in business. The next patron I'd like to thank is Jack Martin at Duskus Martin Funeral Home. And for those of you from Erie that know Jack is very civic-minded, is very much involved in the community, the business community, and charitable foundations and works. Jack does an amazing job up there with your time of need, your time of grief, compassion, professionalism. I can personally highly recommend Duskus Martin Funeral Home, and a big thank you to Jack Martin. I'd also like to take this time to thank another one of our patrons, Mr. Tom Kennedy from Professional Development Associates right here in downtown Erie. For those of you who are from Erie, you already know about Tom's leadership and civic mindedness in the community. We're very blessed and lucky to have a guy like Tom in our midst. And you should also know that Tom will be a guest on this program in the upcoming weeks. And finally, this program is being brought to you with the help and support of small business owners, blue-collar guys and gals, and craftsmen from around the world, where they donated small amounts on WorkingHandsRadio.com. So to learn more about any of these sponsors, just visit WorkingHandsRadio.com. If you'd like to become a sponsor, my contact information is right there. We'd like to welcome you aboard if your company would benefit from having some local airtime or even some global airtime, depending on the business you own. We'd love to have you on board. That's WorkingHandsRadio.com.
Okay, we're back, and we are back in downtown Erie. And callers online, just hang in there for a few minutes. We're going to bring in our guests here in just a second. Just to remember, the phone number here is 451-1400. I keep wanting to put the area code in there. If you are calling from around the country, around the globe, just throw the area code in front of it, and that would be 814-451-1400. So, as I said before that short break, we wanted to talk a little bit about the robotics and automation tonight, how it affects manufacturing. And I've heard some things thrown around over the months by people that probably just don't know any better, that robotics and automation destroyed manufacturing. Actually, it made it a lot better, believe it or not. You know, when I learned the trade all by hand, and then I switched over to machining things with the help of a computer, it was like cheating, right? It was so much easier. It made me so much faster, and it made our company more competitive. So the two work together, and as you heard from our last caller, there's some frustration out there trying to get kids interested in maybe building things. Well, as I said before, I had an opportunity to visit McDowell High School a few months ago, and we have a few folks in our studio tonight. These are actually our first-time guests on Working Hands Radio, so I'd like to welcome Kyle Buchholz and Samantha Wismer. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So, Kyle, you are the instructor of the program. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Can you tell us a little bit about how this even came about? Because I know you had the metal shop there and the wood shop, and then all of a sudden this lab came about. Can you tell us?
Sure, yeah. It came about when we had some students working in our wood shop at a table, and the students were just saying like, "Wow, I have all these great ideas, and I want to explore these things more." And I said to our principal, I said at the time, "We need to really do something about this. We have a facility where we're working at a table in the wood shop. There's sawdust. We're working with electronics." And he said, "Let's do it. Let's get behind this." So we dedicated a room, and then over the summer we had renovations occur, and we're able to put some equipment in there to really kind of update it and have a space where students can actually work and explore and innovate that they didn't have an opportunity to do before that. So that's kind of how it first started, and then it's kind of transformed from that also.
Now, when you talk about innovate, computers, is that what a big part of that was, getting in some new technology versus the wood shop and the metal shop?
Sure, yeah. We've had a push for updating our technology, getting away from necessarily some of the hands-on stuff to some extent, but also pushing it more towards some 3D printing, updating our computer system, virtual reality. That's a really big catch that students like to get involved with, and take that for an opportunity for the students to actually learn from all those new technologies. And I think the most important part is those are kind of the hooks that get them grabbed in. And then once they have that hook, then we can actually introduce them. Like Samuel talked about how we put her on a lathe, we put her on a mill, but it's that initial hook that you have to do to get them into the door and excited about it.
Well, that is, to me, the most exciting part of the program. So you go by Sam or Samantha?
Sammy.
Sammy. Okay, Sammy. So tell us, so you're a senior at McDowell High School.
Yes.
And how long have you been in this program?
I've been in the robotics program for 3 years.
3 full years. And how did you get interested in it? Was it the hook?
Well, I was taking AP Chemistry at the time, and my AP Chemistry teacher told me, if you're seriously thinking about going into mechanical engineering, that you should join the robotics program because it will be a very beneficial experience for you. And then I joined, and I stayed with it.
Now, the robotics program was already there before you started the mill program, correct?
That is correct.
The Innovation Lab. So how are you guys taking care of the design and doing the robots before you guys had this beautiful lab to work from?
A lot of the prototyping and design work was just taking place in the metal tech room and the wood tech room. And now we have the mill, and it has faster computers, so Autodesk doesn't crash as soon as you open it. And we can use a lot more of the software, and it just makes the process easier and faster. And especially during robotics, when time is of the essence, it eases a lot of frustration for a lot of people.
For those of you folks out there listening who have never seen these competitive robots, what are they? They're very big, and what do they weigh? They're heavy.
The weight limit is usually 120 pounds with a 10-pound battery added. Okay,
because I was watching yours run that day for a few minutes. They wouldn't give me the controls, but it was very impressive. And what's interesting, you have all these this beautiful robot, but you said basically you can't save them you have to disassemble because you need the servo motors and things out of them for the next one, correct?
A lot of times we reuse parts from past robots just because it's easier and it's cheaper, especially if we want to get new, fancier parts for different aspects of it. But sometimes we can salvage some of them just to show people what we can do.
Okay. Now, how long is the mill program? Do you go through that for a year, 3 years, 3 months, a semester? How does that work?
Sure. So the mill is open for any students that just want to come and explore. So independent study students, we have a senior release program where students have time in their schedule, they can do that. And then also we have a chunk in the day, it's called tutorial, during the middle of the day where students actually come and can work on making up work for other classes and things like that. But I found that that's a really nice time frame. It's a 45-minute time frame around there that allows students to go and kind of explore and work on projects that they didn't have time for.
So do they get a grade for this, or is this just basically, this is like a studio?
It's like a studio where they can come and play and destroy things and create and everything like that they want to work with.
So Sammy, tell me, in your experience then, from doing this stuff in the wood shop and then the metal shop and now having this available to you, I know you mentioned the computers don't crash in it, but has it made building the robots a lot more fun and new ideas come out of this now that you have the studio to work from?
There's a lot of ideas that we get to test previous to actually making them out of metal. So now that we have 3D printers, we can test certain structures to see their structural integrity before we actually go about like wasting metal on a plasma cutter or something like that. It really just like eases the process a lot. And the like easier it gets, the less frustrated people get. So in that case, it gets more fun for everybody.
Now, when you were growing up, were you kind of a tinkerer? Did you like to build stuff? So you like doing that?
Yeah, I grew up basically being babysat by my grandmother, and I would take apart toys that she had in the basement and like rearrange them and make them into different things.
So you love to see how things tick. You
Yeah.
like to take them apart and put them back together.
Yeah, and she never stopped me, so here we are.
All right, so describe. I know you talked to me when I met you at McDowell, and you talked to me a little bit about the experience of working with things with your hands and building these robots and having to take them apart. And talk to me a little bit about that experience of how I would assume you're much more mechanically inclined now than you were before you started this whole process.
Oh, yeah. Up until robotics, the extent of mechanical knowledge I had was whatever my grandfather could teach me in my garage. But now, because of robotics, I didn't know anything before I came in, and now I know how to at least run every machine in the shop safely, accurately. I'm no like grade A person, but
you're still learning, but
Yeah.
still you're familiar with the equipment.
I'm at least familiar with it, and I think if I can take anything out of it, if I do become a mechanical engineer, I'll have a greater appreciation for what goes into actually making the part, and like taking what I know in class during physics and applying it and actually seeing it work is a lot more rewarding than just solving problems on paper.
And that's the part. That's why you guys are on here tonight. I know I was there. It was several months ago, now, about 3 or 4 months ago. I can't remember when. It was still nice out.
Yeah.
And that's enough, right? And but I was so impressed by the enthusiasm level I saw there. And one of the other things I was very impressed by you had mentioned about how this experience has made you a better overall student. And why is that?
It's just, you can be taught numbers and formulas in the classroom, but unless you're actually taught the real life applications of it, you don't have a full understanding of it. It's like seeing through like one-way glass. You know what I mean? Like you'd never get to see the other side. And like I have an internship right now, and before they even let me on the computers to design things, they took me through the entire shop and said, this is how things work, and you need to know that first before you can do anything.
Are you allowed to say where your internship is at?
I'm at PHB. It's in Fairview.
Yeah, we're familiar with PHB Industries, absolutely.
Yeah, so I have one there. It was actually, they came to me through robotics and asked me to come there, and they made sure I knew everything about the machine shop and the labor that goes into that before they let me on any of the computers to do any design work.
And now, are you doing some design work there now?
Yes, I am.
Wow. Okay, so you're in your senior year.
Yeah.
What's the plan?
Right now, I have been accepted to 3 schools.
I think last time we talked, you were just applying. I didn't know. I don't think you were. So, what 3 schools were you accepted to?
I've been accepted to University of Pittsburgh, Case Western Reserve University, and Ohio State University.
Ohio State. Wow, that's amazing. So, the Ohio State University.
The Ohio State
Get that right.
University.
Boy, look at the hate mail going if we don't get that right. All right, so you're leaning towards anyone right now?
Probably University of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Pitt, right. Yeah.
I have a lot of family there.
Nice.
And I got a lot of scholarships there. So it really, the cost aspect of it really plays into part. But they had 100% placement and internships and jobs for mechanical engineers when I visited. So
100% placement. Yeah, you're in good shape then. Sounds pretty good. And then Kyle, so this being that this isn't a class, this is like you're like the supervisor over the detention room over there. Is that basically it?
I guess so. When I came up with this idea, I didn't realize all the work that was going to go into it, but it's rewarding and I love it.
So you're a full-time teacher?
I am a full-time teacher, yeah.
Teaching?
I teach computer programming.
Okay.
I'm also a business teacher and a tech ed teacher at the same time. So,
wow. Then this is your little hobby?
Then we participate in robotics also. So there's a lot going on.
And that's a whole nother show to be on to talk about the robotic competition. But that's phenomenal too, because I know you. What's the time limit to put one of these design and put one together?
It's 6 weeks to completely design, build, and code a fully functioning robot.
And I have video of this thing, and I don't know if you guys do, but I'll put it up on workinghandsradio.com, and you'll see Sammy there. I still have the video we did that day when I just took a picture of you when you wouldn't let me touch the controls. Yeah. Obviously, I'm never going to let you forget about that. But Kyle, is there something you guys would like to get more on this out in the community? How could people learn more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. We're always looking for businesses to partner with. I know we work a lot with Merit Industries here in Erie. Mm-hmm. Micromold, looking at doing some projects with them lately. So any of that coordination that we can do, I'm happy to reach out to companies and find out more on what they're interested in and how we can help them with the facility that we have available.
Well, we have a caller online, and I think they've been there for a while, but I'm not sure if that's for you guys or it's for one of us. So you want to take it and see if they might have any questions?
Sure.
Okay, caller, you're on Working Hands Radio. Sorry to keep you waiting for so long. You're very patient. Welcome. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Dave Static. I'm calling from New Ulm, Minnesota.
Oh, Dave, I think I might have read your email tonight. That was a lot of fun. So
have we come up with solutions yet, or?
Well, when you were on the air on hold, you should have been probably hearing most of the program, right? You could hear us,
yep.
Right now, tonight, I really wanted to talk a little bit more about automation and robotics, but the reality is that these guests kind of went into that, and my big thing was the getting some enthusiasm back in the schools, which kind of tied into your email that the schools don't seem to be encouraging this creativity and the ability to maybe work with your hands a little bit. And, of course, our guest, Sammy, here, is doing it in a really fun way. She's not being held responsible for like getting a block perfectly square, but at the end the designed robot has the function and it has to win, and nobody wants to be embarrassed at the robotics competition, correct?
Yeah.
Sure.
So
yeah, just from what I was hearing so far on radio tonight, it sounds like other people have different experiences than what I've seen at our local high school. We used to have a really good shop program. We had like 3 or 4 lathes, couple bridge ports, surface grinder, a shaper, heat treat ovens, a foundry, welders, and slowly over the period of 30-some years, I watched that program slowly just deteriorate down to nothing. And now they've built a new school. They've actually got some better welding machines in there, but they got rid of the bridge ports, they got rid of all the old lathes, and they bought a couple of these 3-in-1 machines. I'm not sure what the brand is, but they're pretty cheesy.
Mm-hmm.
And during the process of the move from one school to the new school, my son came home and told me that they bent the ways on one of the lathes. And I'm like, bent them? You got to be kidding me.
Well,
and he's like, no, it's bent.
The issue is, as you mentioned in your email, as the culture is moving more away from manufacturing, perhaps the people aren't there to A, teach it, B, realize how to move equipment correctly, C, how to set it up correctly, and teach people how to run it correctly. So, I don't know, again, back to my guest tonight from the McDowell Innovation Learning Lab, they've got, the best part about it, when I went in their machine shop, it was spotless. So there is hope. There is hope, Dave.
Yep.
Well, go ahead.
The thing that I see here is, like, people teaching the class, and in this case it's really unfortunate, there's no experience in the teacher and no training in the teacher. He's a nice person, don't get me wrong, but how are you supposed to instill these kids with the importance of what manufacturing is when there's no authenticity behind the instructor?
Well, again, those are all good points, and that's the reason I started this program, was to get guys like you and to get guys, these our guests tonight, together, where we can maybe come up with some ideas. It's not going to happen in 2 weeks. This is only my second week on the air, but like I said earlier, the guys that work with their hands are some of the cleverest and most resourceful people I know.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. So with your help and listening in and calling in, this is just a matter of getting the conversation started. So I really appreciate you hanging in there tonight, Dave, and we're going to catch you loose here. I got another caller on the line. So drive safe up there in Minnesota, okay?
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Go ahead, caller. You're on the line. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
No, I'm calling. My name's Francis. Calling from Michigan.
Hi, Francis from Michigan. What's up?
I was just wanting to call and say that I'm excited to be able to hear in and listen to your talk radio station. I think it's important.
I appreciate that. It's guys like you I did this for. Do you have anything words of wisdom or questions for our guest tonight, Francis?
I got a lot, but I just want to see, what people's takes on stuff as far as manufacturing is concerned.
Well, that's what this program's for, and we're going to be here every week for the next 12 weeks. So I'm glad.
I caught the tail end of the last caller, and
okay.
I think the education has a major play in it. However, I'm finding that, or I'm kind of noticing that it's not a field that a lot of younger people are going into. But I think the idea we could bring about is look at people of less fortunate to where they can't go to school, but they have skills that they can, apply to manufacturing and pick up, being learned from people within the manufacturing industry. I have a brother who does OD and ID grinding, and I work in the schools for quite a few years, and I found that our manufacturing classes that are being taught at college level doesn't necessarily go into OD and ID grinding.
No, they're not that specific. You're right. Kyle, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I think one thing that we've found, this is actually my 13th year teaching, is that we've really tried to instill like a cultural change, like in what we are doing and how we're presenting it. And what we found is that if you make it fun, like if you make it fun for the students, they're going to get engaged. They're going to be involved. They're going to see that excitement.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think robots, competitions. I mean, that's intriguing.
Sure.
And I think that more schools ought to partake in that. And I think there's quite a bit of schools that are doing so. And you're absolutely right. They are trying to make it fun. But when it gets into the manufacturing as far as getting dirty, then it kind of takes a different... they kind of step back and take a different look at it. You know what I mean? It's fun in a clean environment and what have you, but when it starts getting to be a dirty mess, and which machining and manufacturing is, it turns them off.
It's not quite as dirty as it used to be. I remember when they didn't even have guards around the machines, Francis. So.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Well, thank you so much for listening in. We'll be here next week. I hope you can tune in next week. Feel free to call in. But where are you in Michigan?
I'm in the Flint area, actually.
Nice. Okay. Don't drink the water.
We need manufacturing, and then Flint is one of the places that is needed for skilled labor.
All right. Well, Francis, I'm going to cut you loose here. Thanks again for calling in. Thank you again for listening. Very much appreciated.
Yep. All right. Take care. And good luck. And I'll be listening in.
Very good. Thanks again.
I was trying to pick you up on Facebook here, but I wasn't very successful at it. But I knew you were on tonight, so I called. Well, all right. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you. All right, so any closing words here? Good luck to you, Sammy.
Thank you.
And I hope you pick up the right school. It sounds like you're leaning towards Pitt. Maybe someday you'll be back on and tell us what you're inventing then. And Kyle, any last words?
If anyone's interested in finding out more information, feel free to call the school, 814-835-5403, so 835-5403, and then get a hold of me and we can... go from there.
And I will put that information up in the next day or so on workinghandsradio.com so people can take care of that. All right. Well, again, thank you for being my first guest.
Thanks
you
for
guys
having
did a
us.
great job. It was really awesome to have you here. You got some callers, so that's good. And we're going to take a few minutes off here to just usher these guys out into the snowbank, and we'll be right back.
Great.
Hi, this is Phil Kerner for Working Hands Radio. And for all you entrepreneurs out there or people who have ever started their own business, you know you can have the best idea in the world, but unless you get the support from somebody in the community to step up and say, hey, you know what, that's a great idea, you might never get off the ground. Well, that was certainly the case with Working Hands Radio, and I'm blessed and very thankful tonight to recognize a few people in the local community who saw the vision for this program, and that's the only reason you're listening tonight. So I'd just like to take a moment to first of all thank the Rakowski family at Industrial Sales and Manufacturing right here in Erie, a world-class supplier of parts to some of the most demanding customers on the world. ISM's slogan is built in Erie and found around the world. And as we all know, manufacturing's had a real rough time for about the last 10 years or so. And it's a real testimonial to industrial sales. Just in 2017, they celebrated 50 years in business. The next patron I'd like to thank is Jack Martin at Duskus Martin Funeral Home. And for those of you from Erie that know Jack, Jack is very civic-minded, is very much involved in the community, the business community, and charitable foundations and works. Jack does an amazing job up there with your time of need, your time of grief, compassion, professionalism. I can personally highly recommend Duskus Martin Funeral Home, and a big thank you to Jack Martin. I'd also like to take this time to thank another one of our patrons, Mr. Tom Kennedy from Professional Development Associates right here in downtown Erie. For those of you who are from Erie, you already know about Tom's leadership and civic-mindedness in the community. We're very blessed and lucky to have a guy like Tom in our midst. And you should also know that Tom will be a guest on this program in the upcoming weeks. And finally, this program is being brought to you with the help and support of small business owners, blue-collar guys and gals, and craftsmen from around the world, where they donated small amounts on WorkingHandsRadio.com. So to learn more about any of these sponsors, just visit WorkingHandsRadio.com. If you'd like to become a sponsor, my contact information is right there. We'd like to welcome you aboard if your company would benefit from having some local airtime or even some global airtime, depending on the business you own. We'd love to have you on board. That's WorkingHandsRadio.com.
And we're back. Welcome to Working Hands Radio. My name's Phil Kerner. I'm your host tonight. We want to thank those special folks from Mill Creek, from McDowell High School for being here. That was awesome to have them in the studio and then drive down to cold downtown Erie tonight. But we're going to go right to the phones. And again, the phone number here is 451-1400. If you're local, 814-451-1400 from anywhere in the United States or around the world. So go ahead, caller. You're on Working Hands Radio. What's your name and where are you calling from? Do we have anybody on the line?
Am I on?
You are on.
Oh, hi, Phil. It's Mike Holmeyer.
Mike, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I really appreciate the phone call, Mike. And for those of you who don't know Mike and are listening around the city or around the country, Mike was a very talented toolmaker that I worked with back in the 1980s at Tetra Tool. I would say the name. Tom could probably use the advertising. And then Mike went on to own his own business. So what's up on your mind? What's on your mind tonight, Mike?
Well, I heard you talking about education and stuff, and I know that you took an apprenticeship. I took an apprenticeship. Now, when I took an apprenticeship, it was 1973. I started mine. I'm not giving away my age, though.
That's okay. That's all right. I started mine in 1979.
Back when we did it, we had to learn the whole shoot match, and you learned how to run every machine in the shop. Nowadays, most of the tool makers are specialists, and even though you're talking about robotics and stuff, those are things that help speed up things, move things around that you wouldn't have to have somebody's body doing it. Of course, but. Lost my plane here for a minute.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, we had to learn everything, and I think that some of the shops anymore should try to learn or try to bring back apprenticeships. And the thing of it was that they got into specialty. You were a grinder hand, you were a CNC operator, you were a wire EDM operator. So the apprenticeships kind of fell apart. I know it did at my shop, and I was in business for 25 years. And I remember the apprenticeship, I think his name was Bill Paniski at the time, told me that he would have to drop me out after I was in it for quite a few years because of the fact that we didn't really have anybody in the apprentice program anymore because everybody was a specialist, know.
Well, I stopped getting phone calls at my shop. I used to get a call a month from kids that wanted to ask if I had an apprenticeship, and I could tell by around 2000. Instead of getting a call a month, I was starting to get a call every 6 months, and then by 2003, nobody was going in apprenticeships anymore. Was that your experience also?
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you didn't have anybody coming in, and even in the newspaper, when you saw you just didn't see ads for apprentices. So I think a lot of the shops have really kind of gotten away from that and hired kids from like Votech or whatever that seem to have gone through their program there, and then try to they hire them out and then work with them from that point on. So, but I don't know. That's just kind of what I pretty much wanted to sit and say, I suppose. But
well, we have an apprenticeship program at our shop, and we just got it started about a year ago, and it's state-run, but it's a lot different than the one you and I took. And I'll go over that some night on the program. It's a lot different. It's more competency-based versus time-based, meaning you can test out of things if you're really good at it, which I like, but there's some things if there's no pressure to get something done if it takes you forever to do it, and I don't like that. My argument was when I was talking to the people in charge of this whole state program was, if I could have tested out of stuff in high school, there's some classes I could have quit high school in 9th grade, and there's a couple other classes I'd still be there. So, you either had to learn it or flunk it or pass it. That's how people are, getting it. And if it takes you too long,
and a lot of kids are good with their hands, and they, like just you were saying earlier, they don't push that enough. It's college, but a lot of kids are just not college material. They want to build something. So it's too bad there's not more opportunities for kids to see advertising to, hey, there's an apprenticeship. So maybe I'll go over and I'll put in my application in. But you don't see a lot of that anymore.
Well, Mike, that's the reason we're here, and I really appreciate you taking the time to call in. But this is what I'm trying to accomplish here, is to put guys like you on the phone with some ideas. And I know it's going to come up. Guys our age are going to talk about how things used to be, because it was great back then. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we need to, to get people excited about that history, how fun it was. And if we can get like that, Kyle, the instructor, the teacher was saying earlier, if you can get the kids excited, and like I say, building stuff is cool. It is a lot of fun.
It is. It's fun, and you enjoy going to work. I mean, I always did, and I'm sure you did too, Phil. But.
Yep. Okay, Mike. Well, thanks for calling in tonight. I appreciate it.
Okay, Phil. Thanks.
All right. Well, we're going to stick right here with the phone lines. Go ahead, caller. You're on Working Hands Radio. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, Phil?
Yes.
Yes, this is a plumber calling from Milwaukee, and I'll let you guess which one.
Oh, those plumbers. You gotta watch the plumbers, especially from Milwaukee. You know what I think of Milwaukee? I think of Bill the plumber, and I think of Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah, I never worked at Laverne and Shirley's house, but I've been in a few buildings around Milwaukee. But yeah, I've been listening to your callers and thinking about where the joy of making things with your hands really comes from. Back in my childhood, or actually, I guess I would say now, you've probably heard me say this, that I feel every day like when I go to work, I'm just heading out to the sandbox again.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, I think I can trace it back to that's where the joy of making things was born for me as a very young boy, and continued, maybe till I was 9 or 10, and then, it was starting not to be cool to play out in the sandbox. But just a couple of years after that, I did have an apprenticeship, not a formal one, but just had a summer job working for my dad as a kid. So that's kind of an extraordinary situation. But I still had the joy, and I still have a very fond memory of the joy of making things, as a very young kid. And that's never left me. I guess how do I put this? It's something that can be born very early, and it just reminds you of your youth. It reminds you of very early joy in your life, and something that gets harder and harder, I guess, to sort of latch onto as you get older. All sorts of other concerns start to come into your life, and to have those simple joys born at an early age is, I think, really valuable to the whole process.
Do you still have joy of what you do every day, Bill?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, you know a little bit about my story. I mean, I have a 3 college degrees, 2 master's degrees in engineering, and I'm still a plumber, and I still love it. And it would have to be a terrific job to lure me away from it.
Well, I know you're really good with the Simon and Garfunkel songs and the guitar. And there's a second calling for you right there. So, well, Bill, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a very busy guy with your business up there in Milwaukee and your family, and to take the time to call in tonight means a lot to me. It's awful nice of you to do that, and I hope you'll be a regular listener here because we could use input from guys like you because you're one of the rare ones that, a lot of people listen to this program, and again, I'm a big proponent of the trades and everything, but and of course I'm not against higher education. I just feel like sometimes people with higher education forget what it's like to build stuff, and you're rare that you have the degrees to back it up, but still like to do it with your hands. So that's really cool, and you're the type of guy, Bill, that if we can keep you on board with the program every once in a while to call in with your ideas, that would be really, really greatly appreciated.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Phil.
Okay.
I love your program. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling. And we're going to stay right with the phone lines here. Go ahead, caller. You're on Working Hands Radio. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, I'm Tom Williams. I'm calling from Mansfield, Ohio.
Hey, Tom. Nice to have you on the air. What's on your mind?
Well, my dad, he's about 60 years old. He went through a vocational training over here around where I live. While I was in vocational school a couple of years back, I did tool and die for about 3 years, and I got out of it for a little bit here recently just because I wanted to kind of explore different other things. I got into serving at Olive Garden, but I'm looking to getting back into it. I just wondered, my dad's had a real difficult time trying to find a job because he's so old. He used to be a doctor, but I just wondered if you had any advice for him, anything that might help him.
Well, I mean, what kind of job is he looking for?
I'd imagine he'd want to get into learning tool and die. I think most of what he learned had to do a lot with CNC. It was an adult ed program, so it kind of makes sense that they would roll that way. That's kind of where most of the jobs are at, Also, with somebody being that old and trying to learn tool and die, they're going to think, well, 10 years later he's going to be walking out the door while I train him,
Right.
I don't know. I figured I'd see what your thoughts were on it as to maybe what he should do other than just apply to places, because a lot of people see how old he is and then they just turn him away.
Well, since I'm not hiring, I can ask. If I was hiring him, I couldn't ask. How old is he?
I think he's 62 now.
Wow, and he wants to start a new trade as a toolmaker. That's commendable. That's commendable. I'm trying to get out of it by the time I'm 62. Oh, my goodness. Well, you know what? That's a good question, and that's why we're doing this program. There's a lot of people online right now watching this, and that's no doubt that's how you're hearing the programs on Facebook tonight, right?
Yeah.
So, you guys that are out there, if you guys have any ideas for this guy's dad that wants to maybe get back into the trade, put them up there and please monitor that. This program will be up for a long time, so the comments will be added to it as the days go by. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So please,
and I really appreciate it. Taking the time to talk to me and to do this radio show. It's really cool.
Good. Well, I hope you'll be a steady listener, and I hope you'll be no stranger with the calls. And if you could just let us know how you made out with your father, and if you've learned anything online from the any of the comments under the program.
All right, I will. I also have one other question for you. I bought access to all of your videos and stuff to watch them and learn this stuff really early on just because I wanted to be as good as I possibly could at it. I just wondered if, have you ever thought about maybe offering some kind of certification or something for, going through that, maybe some kind of assessment?
The problem, for me to do that, I think I'd have to be certified. Then I can offer it, so that's something to look at. Right now, I am just trying to be the best toolmaker I can during the day and the best radio host I could be tonight. So, but I appreciate that comment. So all right, well, thank you for calling.
You have a great one, Phil. It was good talking to you.
Very good. Again, don't ever be shy about calling in. Appreciate it.
I won't. You have a good one, Phil. I'll see you the radio show. So.
All right. Thanks. All right. So before we go to finish up tonight, I got a few pieces of business to take care of, folks. And I do want to talk a little bit about one of our sponsors, an unusual sponsor, Captain Brad White up at New England Burials at Sea. And Brad's an energetic guy, and he runs a really great business. If you, I am a big fan of small business, and Brad's an innovator. And I'm telling you right now, I read this last week, and I'll just give you a second. But he's it's called New England Burials at Sea, and it's an East Coast provider for customized ash scattering memorials and full body burials at sea. They're based in Marshfield Hills. I know where that's at. It's just outside of Boston, I believe a little south of Boston. But they operate year-round, coast-to-coast, serving all faiths with personalized and affordable services from 1 to 400 passengers. So if you are interested, I have to say, in learning more about burials at sea, it's fascinating. It really is. When you think of your normal funeral, that's one thing. But the whole, that's quite a way to go out with a burial at sea, and a lot of people are into it. So I have to have a little fun with Captain Brad tonight, because I know Captain Brad is sitting there right now looking at his website stats. So if you go to New England Burials at Sea, I guarantee you, you'll learn something, and it's a really well-done website, and he is a new sponsor to the program. So again, Hoy out there, Captain Brad, we appreciate having you on board as a initial sponsor of Working Hands Radio. It makes you a prince and a scholar all in one. And again, folks, just go to newenglandburialsatsea.com. So this evening went pretty quickly, and I really have to say I appreciate a few things tonight. I appreciate the fact that I was able to get down here through the snowy roads tonight. It's downtown Erie in winter. It's not pretty as far as driving, but outside the studio, the Christmas lights are still up. The downtown looks really pretty tonight. And but the reality is the call-ins and the guests make the show. If I didn't have call-ins, I could do this program from my basement studio, right? I could just go on Facebook, and I could read your comments under the program and respond to them. Well, anybody can do that, right? So we're very, very proud, and with these sponsors' help, to bring you this program from Erie, Pennsylvania, and to work with the folks and the engineers down here at the station that made this all possible. And for those of you who listen tonight, the Facebook feed is one thing, but in a day or so, we'll have the real live audio up directly from the studio, and it's pristine. And you can just download that as a podcast or listen to it. That's why we're here. Again, there's a big deal to work with a real radio station, and that's why we're here. So again, McDowell, I had it right the first time. McDowell Innovation Learning Lab. You need to go check that out if you have any questions about how that works. And those guys are getting kids enthused about manufacturing, enthused about building things, and that's why we're here again to do that. So a couple quick things. If you are out there listening tonight, this feed went out last week, and by the end of 3 or 4 days, we had over 4,000 views. So if you're a local business that could use some exposure here in Erie, Pennsylvania, give me a call if you'd like to come on board as a sponsor. If you're a national business and you'd like to get your manufacturing business or whatever out in front of a very large audience from coast to coast, I can help you out there too. So we always appreciate bringing you on board. We'll take good care of you as a sponsor of Working Hands Radio. And I think we'll just, what do we got left here? About a minute? So this is one of my favorite little sayings about the trade, and I'll leave you with this tonight. Here we go. A man who works with his hands is a laborer. A man who works with his hands and his brain is a craftsman. But a man who works with his hands, his brain, and his heart is an artist. So until next week, keep the faith, and we will see you right here next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. WJET 1400 here in Erie, and on the same place on Facebook Live.